50 years in the future, all the heroes have died, the villains have won and are ruling the country, and this is where we follow the story of Old Man Logan. On the night that all of the heroes fell, Wolverine hung up the claws. Rumors began to spread about why this happened. Some say that night he got hurt worse than anybody has ever been hurt before. Others say he just wanted to retire for a simpler life. Regardless, it's been about 50 years since Logan raised his voice or even popped a claw. Now, with his healing factor declining, Logan is an aged old man living on a farm with his wife and 2 kids. As they discuss their financial issues and what they could potentially do about them, Maureen suggests even selling the kids' Xbox, to which Logan puts his foot down and says, "Damn it, we're not selling the kids' toys." Logan and Maureen step outside to talk, and the reason it's such a big deal is because they owe rent money, and not to just anybody, they owe it to the Banner Gang. Maureen says this is their first time missing a payment. She's sure they'll be reasonable, and Logan explains that they're Bruce Banner's children. They don't do reasonable. Knowing he was going to be short on money, they showed up with a little extra muscle and asked Logan if he'd rather see his farm or himself destroyed. And after taunting him and asking him if he's ready to take his punishment, the Banners begin beating Logan's head into the ground. They wonder how he got so pathetic that he won't even try and defend himself anymore. As Logan lays in a pool of his own blood, his son has finally seen enough as he grabs his shotgun and tells the Banners to leave his dad alone. They're amused at this puny human's attempt at a threat and tell Logan simply, "Double it next month or everybody dies." As Logan is laying in bed healing up, his old buddy Hawkeye, one of the few remaining heroes, comes by to pay him a visit and has a proposition for him. He tells Wolverine he has a package he's got to deliver to the other side of the country, 3,000 miles in 2 weeks. There's absolutely no way he could do it alone, so if he accompanies him on this trip, he'll make a whopping $500, plenty enough to pay for his rent. Desperate to provide for his family and keep them safe, Logan agrees to go with Hawkeye as he hugs his wife and kids and tells them that he loves them. So the 2 old pals load up and begin their cross-country trip in an updated version of the Spider Buggy. But a 3,000-mile journey isn't all that they have ahead of them, as the country has been divided up into villain-ran territories. For an almost blind Clint Barton and a pacifist Wolverine, this proves to be one treacherous journey. Of course, their journey doesn't exactly start out smoothly. Now, they arrive in San Francisco to find it's dilapidated and half sunken into the ground. That's when Hawkeye explains to Logan about the Moloids, how they live underground, and how finally their numbers are strong enough to, when they want to, they sink entire cities to eat the inhabitants. And to make matters go from bad to worse, a gang of Ghost Riders show up to steal everything from Clint and Logan. Logan had tried to explain to Clint that he's a pacifist. He doesn't fight anymore under any circumstance, even as he's getting his ass kicked by this group of Ghost Riders who is wondering what the hell is wrong with him. Clint, on the other hand, has zero issues with killings and takes out the entire gang by himself. Logan is shocked and says, "Clint, what have you done?" And he said, "Don't you start with me. I'm already pissed enough at you. You really mean you've stopped popping your claws, you've took an oath, and you're this big pacifist now? What the hell did they do to you, man?" As Logan thinks back to that dreaded night where all the heroes fell, where he hung up the tights and says, "They broke me, bub. That's the only reason I'm still alive." After that uncomfortably violent run-in with the Ghost Riders, the 2 begin to cover some ground as they make it to Hammer Falls, Nevada, formerly known as Las Vegas. Hammer Falls is actually the location of the heroes' last stand, where they were all killed on that night 50 years ago. It's where people come and pray to the gods that the heroes will come back one day. This place also happens to be the home of Peter Parker's youngest daughter and Clint Barton's 3rd ex-wife. I know that's super creepy. While he's just stopping in, Tanya has an urgent message that's going to derail their trip. Her and Clint's daughter Ashley is imprisoned by the Kingpin. Hawkeye hasn't been the best father, but he's obviously going to go save his daughter, only Logan says that he's not helping him out in this. He signed up to be a map reader, and that's all he's doing. Clint tries to bargain with Logan and tells him, "You know what, if you help me in this mission, I'll double your money," and he says, "Well, I still ain't fighting." We get a look at this new Kingpin, who actually took this territory over from an old Magneto, and we see the punishment for the people who dress like heroes and try to take down the Kingpin, as they're being publicly executed by being fed to a couple of velociraptors in front of crowds of cheering fans. To make matters worse, Kingpin says this is nothing compared to what he'll do to their leader Ashley. Clint has came up with a half-ass shitty plan as him and Logan are speeding across a building. As they get up to 200 miles an hour, they launch the Spider Buggy off the side of the building, crashing through Ashley's prison. Logan sticks to his word. He doesn't lift a finger in the attempts to try and free Clint's daughter, as Old Man Hawkeye has to take down a bunch of armed thugs on his own. And with a well-placed shot, he's able to free Ashley from her cage just as the new Kingpin arrives. Ashley takes his fucking head off. Now, Clint is shocked and he thought Ashley was here to free everybody, and she tells him that he thought that because he's stupid. She killed the new Kingpin like he killed Magneto, and this is her territory now. And raising up to strike her own dad down, she says, "Now it's time to show my new men what I'm made of." And as much as he didn't want to get involved, Logan couldn't sit idly by, so he plows the Spider Buggy through the room, saving Clint and making their getaway. Ashley sends her new crew to hunt her dad and Logan down, but unfortunately as they're trying to make their getaway, the Moloids open up a cavern and everybody falls down through it. Thankfully, Clint and Logan have the only vehicle there that can climb on walls. After escaping the moloid pit, these old men finally start making some headway on their journey. They pass through Wyoming and South Dakota, but not knowing that they have some prying eyes following them, eventually stopping for a drink in Des Moines, Iowa. Now, the two old pals actually start acting like friends again as they confess to each other their fears and their failures. Logan expresses that this trip is making him feel more violent, that he's afraid it's going to bring it back out of him. But he's not that guy anymore. He loves his wife, he loves his kids, and he loves the little piece of life that they've carved out for themselves. He's not excited by the idea of death, and Clint hugs him and tells him, "Buddy, nobody said that you were." Now, a shitty old drunk taunts the two of them for hugging up on each other and says he didn't realize it was ladies' night. In a fit of anger, Logan turns around and almost goes to kill him, but instead storms out of the bar as Clint chases behind him, wanting to know what exactly has happened. And with tears in his eyes, Logan looks at his pal and says, "Sit down and I'll tell you everything." Logan sits down and begins to tell Clint the full story. It was the night that all the other heroes got killed. Him and Jubilee are sitting by the computer when distress calls start going off like crazy. The Avengers, S.H.I.E.L.D., Wakanda, the Fantastic Four, everyone is calling out, and she keeps calling back only to get no answers. Now, Logan tells Jubilee they need to get out of there now, but all of a sudden an explosion at the mansion happens, and he hears a voice saying, "No, you needed to be out of here 20 minutes ago." As hordes of villains start walking into the building, they tell Wolverine that this is the big one. Logan begins fighting for his life and taking out as many of them as they can. They tell him that they've all got their acts together, they're all on the same page, and all the heroes die tonight. But as Logan keeps slashing away, he says, "Not on my watch, bub." Logan is stabbing through the hearts of these villains, decapitating them, and all the while screaming for the X-Men, wondering why they weren't coming to help him. Calling to the children, telling them to run and not look back as he's trying to protect them from these attackers. And one by one, swing by swing, each one begins to fall at the blade of Logan. Until eventually a bleeding out, dying Bullseye looks at Logan and says, "Why are you doing this to us? You were supposed to be our friend." As the illusion ends and he sees it wasn't Bullseye at all, but Jubilee. Master of illusions, Mysterio himself steps out and says, "What delusions of grandeur you must have. 40 supervillains. You really thought you could take them all on at once? But your friends, the people who love you, they would hesitate. They wouldn't want to hurt you." But fighting them would be a different matter entirely, as Mysterio thanks Logan on behalf of the entire criminal community. Wolverine turns around to find out he's murdered every one of the X-Men. Crying his eyes out, he tells Clint that he had no idea Mysterio made them look, sound, even smell different. And after he killed them, he was so distraught, he just began walking aimlessly through the woods. Could have been days, could have been weeks, until eventually he came across a train track, where he laid his head down on it and waited. Unfortunately, with that healing factor, it just wasn't enough. Tells Hawkeye that's why Wolverine's dead, that's why he hasn't popped a claw in 50 years, and that's why he will never hurt another living soul. His hands will do nothing except tend for his land and take care of his family. With the weight of his demons off his chest, Logan and Clint hit the road once again, and as I told you, there are no shortages of surprises on this trip. As the Venom symbiote that spotted the old heroes moving through South Dakota has found itself quite a hardy host and has caught up with them. As the two are running for their lives from this giant venomized dinosaur, even though they don't know it, they have a helping hand out there waiting for them, watching through a computer screen. Out of nowhere, Black Bolt teleports in front of Logan and Clint, and with just one small whisper, absolutely blasts the Venom symbiote off of the T-Rex. They get teleported back along with Black Bolt, where they find out that their guardian angel turned out to be none other than Emma Frost. She explains that her place is a safe haven for mutants and how they were just a genetic anomaly. It turns out that they weren't the future at all. She tells Logan there's hardly more than 20 of us now, and as far as she knows, there hasn't been a mutant born in years. Now, as her and Clint have a little back and forth, Emma tells him that she realizes that the superhero thing is still in him, that he hasn't given it up. Deep down, he hasn't changed at all, and she knows what he's hiding in that box and trying to transport across the country. And Clint just tells her, well, hopefully you can still keep a secret, skank. But despite their little back and forth, Emma has her men fix up the spider buggy and then sends Logan and Clint back out on their way. Before they go, she asks Logan if he found that piece that he was looking for, if he has a happy life now, and he says, "You're the mind reader, why don't you tell me?" And she looks at him and says, "Congratulations." And as the two head back out on the road once again, it turns out that Emma wasn't the only one who learned of their mission. They continue to drive on through Ohio. We see Logan questioning Hawkeye, wondering what Emma was talking about and what's in the box. Logan was under the impression this entire time it was just drugs they were trying to peddle, and Clint told him not to worry about it. As the two pass through Penn Falls, Connecticut, they're finally approaching their final destination. Now that they finally made it and have arrived at New Babylon, Clint has a confession for Logan. It wasn't just drugs they were running. But Logan doesn't care what kind of business Clint's involved in. As long as he gets his cash, that's the only thing that matters. Go in and Clint meets his buyer. He reveals what's in the briefcase: 99 vials of super soldier serum. Enough to start a small army, enough to lead a revolution against these villains running the world. And while Logan still is going to get his money, Clint doesn't even didn't want it. All he asked for is one vial for himself. As he does, Logan realizes guns start raising everywhere. He gets shot all to pieces and Clint gets shot in the chest. It turns out this whole vial was a setup. It was nothing more than a sting operation to catch who was trying to work against the government. There is no rebel alliance forming, and the president knows of everything going on. Now, laying there defeated and bleeding and realizing all hope is lost, Hawkeye tells them to go ahead and do their worst as they fire a bullet through his brain. Meanwhile, at the White House, we see the president admiring his collection. As the SHIELD team shows up and tells him of their success on the mission, they deliver the super soldier serum, all of the money back to the president, and the two bodies of Clint and Logan. Only one of the goons notices that the wounds are disappearing on one of the bodies. Logan pops out of his body bag, still refusing to pop his claws, but giving up his pacifism, and telling the Red Skull that he's going down. Logan begins battling with the bastard who put the country into the shape that it is. And the Skull is taunting him, telling him look how out of shape he is, and hell, he won't even pop his adamantium claws anymore. What did these big bad villains do to him? As the Skull wants the glory of the kill for himself, he locks the rest of his SHIELD team outside of the room and fights Logan one-on-one as he grabs Cap's shield. With it, he starts beating the hell out of the Skull. Eventually, he gets the best of him, smashes his trophy cases, gets him on his back, and stands over top of him, wielding the shield right above his throat. And the Skull laughs and says, "You don't have the guts." But for the first time in 50 years, Logan kills again. Grabs one of Tony's suits that was sitting in the trophy case, puts it on, and blasts his way out of the White House. Grabs the briefcase of money they were supposed to pay Clint with, which will be more than enough to pay off his debts to the Banners. Pulls the suit to book it as fast as it can back home to California. The old suit didn't have quite enough charge to make it all the way home, but it got Logan close enough as he crashes into the desert. After a 36-hour walk, Logan has finally made it back to his peace, to his farm, to his family, to be greeted by his neighbor Donovan, who has terrible news. He tells Logan that the Hulk gang already came for their money, and Logan says we had 2 more weeks, and he said their only answer was they got bored. As he walks through the door of his home and sees his helpless wife and kids laying there slaughtered. Old Man tells Logan not to do anything too rash, that they're not the men they used to be, and he tells him his name isn't Logan anymore. As he pops his claws back out, he says it's Wolverine. With his pacifist ways behind him, his claws extended again, and his entire family dead, Logan decides it's time to go eye for an eye. He decides to murder every inbred member of Bruce Banner's extended family. He slashes and stabs and cuts his way to the center of their big trailer park. The others are shocked to see their cousin Bo there, chained up with a bomb in his mouth. Just like that, Logan has blown hordes of the Banner gang all to hell by himself. He tells the few survivors he has nothing he's there to achieve, he just wants to kill them. Until all but the newest baby are dead, and it's protected by none other than Bruce Banner himself. The Banners learn to use his strength in his normal human form, and the two begin to fight just like old times, up until Logan stabs him through the chest. As he looks Bruce in the eyes and tells him that was for his wife and kids. Bruce grows bigger, stronger, meaner, and more mutated than ever. He grabs Logan and fucking eats him. Hours later, the Hulk has a stomach pain like he's never had in his life. Now, he says this is abnormal. He's eaten tons of people, and they say yeah, but none of them had a healing factor. As Logan comes busting out of the Hulk and fulfilling his revenge. He tells the one last adult survivor to give him his clothes, and he says that's fine, just leave the baby alone, and he says, what makes you think I'm leaving a baby? Bruce robbed him of his family, now he's gonna rob him of his. A month later, after all of that chaos has ensued, we see Logan saying goodbye to his wife and kids. He tells all of his neighbors he's going back out into the world, he's going to be a superhero like he should have been all along. And on top of that, he's got a little buddy known as Bruce Jr. who's going to try and help him on his mission. The two ride off into the sunset. Logan says he got killed 50 years ago, but he got better. And he feels he's left his head down and allowed the world to become what it is long enough.